Hey everyone, welcome back to Today in Tech. Once again, hostless. I'm Michael Simon from Macworld, joined by Ken Mingus from Computer World. And we are going to talk about Apple's
It's a
fall
weird
releases.
autumn. What is going on these days
Yeah.
with Apple? It's
So
like,
there was tons of rumors, as there always are. And, we thought, all right, so let's start from the beginning. We got the iPhone event,
yep,
iPhone 14, all that stuff, AirPods Pro second gen, and
Apple Watch.
right. The Series 8, Apple Watch Ultra, and the SE2. So, all right, off to a predictably good start. Those all, well, the Apple Watch and the iPhone are always September things, so we knew
Yeah,
that was coming.
right.
AirPods Pro have been rumored for I think a year and a half now, so that wasn't surprising either. All good updates. Nothing mind blowing. The best was the Ultra that we talked about last time, I think. That was the most interesting of the releases. iPhone 14 Pro is good, the
Yeah.
dynamic island and all the, it's a good phone. Nothing mind blowing, nothing revolutionary, but it's good. Apple Watch Series 8 was a very minor update, and SE was even more so. But okay, good, strong product lineup for what is arguably its most important. I mean, the iPhone, you don't have to argue, but you can argue that the Apple Watch is becoming one of its biggest sellers.
hmm
Then we were waiting for an October event, which we thought was going to bring iPads and Macs, and we didn't get it. Mid October, we heard that Apple decided against holding an event. Mark Gurman from Bloomberg first reported it, and then other people followed. Um, that it's usual. So in the last couple of years, last year, year before, year before that, and I want to say the year before that too, they've held at least one more and sometimes two more events after the iPhone event to release, the other stuff,
Right.
mainly the Macs.
Yeah.
Since the Apple Silicon transition began, we got the M1s in 2020. We got the 14 and 16-inch Pros with the M1 Pro Max chips last year. And we just assumed like this was their slot for new Macs, maybe iPads with Apple Silicon with the M Silicon chips too, because the iPad Pros were rumored. So we just assumed, all right, this is what's going to happen, and then they didn't do that. So what we did get, let's just talk about first what we did get.
Right.
What was it, 3 weeks ago, maybe
Yeah.
less?
Third week of October, a couple of weeks ago, anyway. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon, my time, and the Apple just updated its website with new stuff. We got the 10th gen iPad, which we'll talk about because that's a really weird model.
hmm
The M2 iPad Pro, which is basically the iPad Pro with an M2 chip, and a new Apple TV 4K, which, that was a bit of a surprise. We had heard maybe that was coming, but it wasn't solid.
hmm
And it was just updated last year, which Apple doesn't usually update those in back-to-back years. So that's what we got. So let's stop there and we'll talk about those. First of all, Ken, did you buy any of them?
you and I were talking about this. The only thing about the Apple TV that was interesting to me was the addition of HDR10 plus.
Yep.
I'm not sure that I need that with the specific TV
It's
that I have, and the A15 Bionic chip that it's got in it, which is,
I mean, if you have the other one, you're getting what, A14, I think. Right?
I thought it had the A13, but I could be
Maybe. Well,
wrong. It
whatever.
came out
Maybe
early
maybe
last
maybe it
year.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so I was ready to order that because I want the latest greatest for the home entertainment thing. And but then you and I were talking, and there was an assumption that at least HDR10 plus would be available on the most recent model, last year's model
Yeah,
with
so Apple announced that when it was doing its tvOS 16 thing way back at WWDC. That was a feature
mhm,
of tvOS 16. It was going to unlock HDR10 plus because it already does HDR10,
right.
and that just disappeared.
It disappeared. If you
Yeah.
wanted it on the earlier, anything before the most recent Apple TV that just came out, doesn't seem to be available. And so I actually did go ahead and order one because I do have, different TVs that I could connect this up to. So of the things that Apple has released this fall, I have an iPhone 14 Pro Max, the Apple
Hmm.
Watch Ultra, and an Apple TV on the way.
So you
Not
did order
getting an
one.
iPad, huh?
You did order the Apple TV 4K.
I did. Yeah. Well, once we
You did you have the 2021
I
model?
have one of them. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I'll move
So
that. I'm basically going to bounce those around among TVs and,
yeah.
deprecate one and get the new one. And probably won't notice any difference, really. I mean, I
Well,
hope
if you have a Samsung TV, you might
I
see a
don't.
difference. I mean, HD. Oh, you don't have one?
I have an LG. Yeah.
Oh, well, then you definitely won't because it doesn't support it.
All right. Well, then I'm
Um,
going to go back and cancel my order.
HDR 10 Plus is only for Samsung. Well, not only. Hisense also does it, but it's mainly for Samsung. LG TV support Dolby Vision, which is what Apple TV 4K supports already.
The other interesting thing was, at least in the, we should mention that the new Apple TV comes in two versions, one with
Yeah.
Ethernet, one without. And the one with Ethernet supports, like, it has better support for HomeKit and threading.
Well, yeah, it has Thread support.
Yeah.
So last
But,
year, both models, 32 and 64 gig, had an Ethernet port, and it's always had an Ethernet port. Even the
right.
HD model had an Ethernet port, and support for Thread, which wasn't very important last year. It is now
Yeah.
because Matter is now baked into iOS 16.
As of today, Matter is,
Yeah,
they've
and
re-rolled out standards. Yeah.
yeah, so and that's going to become a bigger deal going forward. So now, if you bought the $129 Apple TV 4K, you don't get Thread support,
Support for
which
that.
means you can't use it as a home hub, which means you have to get a home pod
Yeah.
to do that.
Yep.
That's like where Apple frustrates me. So all right, here's what I did. I had the 2017 model,
Oh, wow. Okay.
which is honestly was fine.
That's not the HD. Is that the first
No,
4K?
it was a 4K one,
Okay.
but I didn't have the higher resolution. I'm sorry, the higher frame rate. Um, I didn't have the new remote.
Hmm.
It was an A8 processor, but honestly, it's fine. I've used it for what, 4 years, 5 years. It's fine, but Amazon, and actually it's still going on. They're selling the current model. I say current because it doesn't come out technically till tomorrow. The 2021 model for $100.
Hmm. That's a good deal.
Now yeah. So that's what I bought because I use a wired connection. So
Yeah.
I kind of did the math and weighed the pros and cons. Like, all right, so I'm going to spend $150, which is 50% more than I
Yeah.
would on this one, to get Ethernet and Thread, which I can get on this one for 100 of slightly faster processor, which I didn't care about. Same remote, USB-C versus Lightning, which I don't really care about right now. I have tons of Lightning cables, and I do have a Samsung TV, but it's getting older now, so I'm probably going to upgrade. And once I do, it'll be an LG OLED. So the HDR 10 Plus doesn't necessarily matter. Plus, there's not a ton of stuff that uses it. Notably, Hulu, Amazon, and Apple TV,
Hmm.
Apple TV Plus, they broadcast in most of their, I don't know if it's all of them, but a lot of them broadcast in HDR 10 Plus. Netflix, HBO does not, and a lot of the other smaller services don't either. It's kind of this war. I don't know if you remember the Blu-ray
Mm.
HD disc, whatever it was, wars.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the VHS Betamax wars. Like there's competing standards. HDR 10 Plus and Dolby Vision. Dolby Vision is probably going to win, but who knows? I don't know. But at some point, that'll all settle. It'll take a while because people don't upgrade their TVs that regularly.
Yeah.
So I actually don't even know. I think mine supports HDR 10 Plus. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it does. But whatever, I weighed that and I say, what? I don't care. I certainly don't care about the extra storage. Apple doubled the storage
What is the point of storage on these things? Is it for games, or I
games.
mean,
Yeah,
the apps don't
it
take up a lot of room. What do I need
it's
128 gig?
it's games. I mean, that's
Okay.
it. Apple still, has designs on Apple TV being something of a game console. It's not. No one cares.
What's
But that's
well,
why. And
what's
also, you can also download content if you want, but that
right.
doesn't,
Well,
no one's doing it.
what's the advantage? I mean, okay. And what's the advantage of the faster chip? I mean, I understand that obviously the new Apple TV, it's fanless, it's more energy efficient.
I didn't
Now,
even know it had a fan, but yes,
yeah,
the new one
I
doesn't
didn't
have a
either.
fan.
And the
I did
A15,
not
all right,
know.
and the A15 chip. I mean, how fast do you need an Apple TV to be? I've
Again, it's
never
the
noticed
same.
any kind of stuttering or moving between apps or launching things.
It's also games. I
Okay.
mean, that's the only reason why you need a faster chip and more storage is if you're playing like, I don't know, NBA 2K23 or something. I don't know
over
who's
my
doing that.
head. I
I'm
don't plan to
certainly
do it.
not. I'm not, but
No,
I'm sure
no,
maybe somebody is somewhere.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't like those are the things I didn't need. Otherwise, there's no upgrade. It's the same. I don't care how tall it is. It's the same. I mean, it's the
So
same size. I put it under my television. I don't care if it's an extra half inch taller because it has a fan. I
so
don't
what
care.
so what are we so what are we thinking? We can tie this into the whole mishmash with the iPad. What do we think Apple's doing in terms of rolling these things out with a few kind of features and some things deleted depending on which model you get, and it just
Well,
feels a bit
I think the price cut
ordered.
is significant
Yeah, okay, price
enough
drop.
to spur sales. I mean, they cut it by $70.
Hmm.
That's enough. That's a good price cut.
Hmm.
So they technically cut it by $50, but they doubled the storage. So the $200 model, the 2021, the
That's the
64
old
gig costs
128
200
gig
bucks.
model, right?
64, right, 128, right, was
Yeah.
that. So they doubled the low end.
Yep.
No, it was 64, 32 and 64.
Okay.
The 128 is new.
Oh, okay.
So the 64 gig model last year cost $200. Now it costs $129. That's a big price cut.
Hmm.
That's significant. It's still not as cheap as it should be. Like you can get a Roku box for $20 or $25 if it's on sale. But I think this will spur sales. I've said it before. Apple TV is far and away the best box for this stuff. I
Yeah.
have them all. I've used them all. I've used Roku and Amazon and TiVo. This is the best one. All right. So yeah. So the rollout. This doesn't need its own event. It doesn't need its own spotlight. It's so that was fine. Now, what came out with this was two iPads. One was the M2 iPad Pro, which is really just there's two features. The M2 chip, which
Yep.
whatever. I mean, the
Yeah.
M1 chip is too fast. Now this is too faster.
Too
Like
faster.
you don't need it. You do. No one needs an M2 chip in an iPad.
Right.
The other thing it comes out with is this. It's called Apple Pencil Hover, and
Yeah.
you can kind of like put the pencil above the screen and see
If you're about like an inch
pointer.
above the screen or something,
Yeah.
it'll sense it and give you an idea for where you're going to be drawing when you put the pencil down.
So I mean that's fine, I guess. I wouldn't. There's no reason to upgrade from last year's model or even the year before that, for that
Nope.
matter. The design has been the same since 2018. The screen is the same. So the 11-inch doesn't have the super XDR thing, but the 12.9-inch does. It's they're fine. They're good. They're expensive.
No price changes, right?
No, well, not here. Overseas, it's a mess
Well,
overseas because of inflation and stuff. But
Yeah.
$799, $1099 in the U.S. for those two. Now, okay, that's that. Now they came out with the 10th gen iPad. So all right,
This is the puzzler. This is the
yeah.
puzzler for me.
So the 9th gen iPad was the cheapo one.
Mhm.
It was it's $329. It has a home button, 10.2-inch display. It's the old model, basically the old iPad Air from like 2015 that they just keep recycling. They add, like it has center stage and they bring, slowly bring features to it. It has True Tone, but it's not a modern iPad. It doesn't look like the iPad Air, the iPad Mini, or the iPad Pro. It doesn't have that stuff, but it's cheap. It's great for kids. It had a couple generations old processor, but it's plenty fast. And it's it was a good option for someone who wanted the cheapest iPad. You're not getting garbage. It's good. Now the 10th gen iPad. Okay. So it looks like the iPad Air. 10.9-inch display, same size. The screen isn't as good. It's not laminated, and what that means is, so when you see the iPad Air, the screen is like flush against the case. With the iPad and both of these iPads, the lower end iPad, there's like, I don't know, 2 millimeters, a millimeter, or something like that of space. So you can feel it, you can see it. Okay, there's that. So the iPad Air is better screen. It has an A15. I just forgot the processor.
I think you're right.
The iPad Air has an M1.
Yeah.
The 10th gen iPad, hold on, let me just get this before I move on. I think it's an A15, but I'll double check that. It is a 14, sorry. A14 chip, which is fine. That's a couple of years old.
It's gonna be plenty fast.
Yeah, the iPhone The iPhone Pro is a 16. The iPhone non-Pro has a 15. So it's last year's chip. It's fine. It's not. I'm sorry, 2 years ago because it's 14. So this is the chip that was in the iPhone 12, which it's whatever. It's fine. It's a good enough chip. It's $449. Those are the two main differences between that and the iPad Air. Now, it puts it in a really weird spot because the Air is $600, which is a lot.
Yeah.
They're still selling the ninth gen iPad for $329. So you can pay $120 more and get this thing that's in some ways better than that one, in some ways not as good as the iPad Air. It cannibalizes sales, I think, from both of them.
Yeah.
And it just feels like it's just kind of in no man's land.
It feels like at this point with the iPad that Apple seems to be iterating for the sake of iterating. I don't get quite the sense. I mean, I know, Apple likes to start with, something that's enticing and get you in, and then, you go up the ladder. But between the old entry level model and the new entry level model, and then the iPad Air, and then the iPad Pro that's small, and the iPad Pro, the big one, and there's a lot of steps and the
Too
way.
many iPads.
Yeah,
Too
it
many.
gets confusing. And aren't there some features? Wasn't there something about the maybe it was the camera or pencil support or something
The
that
pencil, so the iPad 10th gen uses um the Apple Pencil, the first gen Apple Pencil, which
okay,
has Lightning,
yep,
but it doesn't have a Lightning port. It has a USB-C port.
that's right. And they send some little
Right. So there's a dongle you got to put onto the pencil, then attach it to a cable because you can't plug it into the thing. Run that to your iPad. It's insane.
yeah,
It's insane.
that sounds very un-Apple-like, which is why
Particularly since so the redesign gives it those flat edges, which is what the Apple Pencil 2 second gen
Mhm.
has. That's the only difference. It has that flat side and a magnet,
So
so
you
you can
can
pop it on the
yeah,
top of your iPad and charge it.
charges.
It's slow enough where it's not going to. I mean, it's a trickle charge, so it's not going to destroy your iPad's battery, and it's convenient and all that. But the iPad 10th gen doesn't support that. It supports the first gen Apple Pencil, and it's like why? And the USB-C port is a USB-C 2 port, so it's super slow. So there's that too. It's just like I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Pick one. You got the Air and the 10th gen iPad. They're the same. It's just too confusing for people to figure out what to buy. And when you're in that space, you can't expect someone who's looking for a quote unquote budget iPad to do all this research before they buy one. It should
Well,
be clear.
yeah, I mean, and that's the point that I'm making. I mean, I am confused. I mean,
Yeah.
and I really sort of try to track these things. And, my head almost exploded when it came out on, 3 weeks ago or whenever it was, because I'm like, well, is this one supposed to be better? Is that one better? Is this the entry model now? Or, I
Now,
mean,
if they would have gotten rid of the ninth gen and made
yeah,
this one like 349,
that would,
now we're talking.
yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
I get
But
that.
449 is too close to the Air and not close enough to the night. It's just like, what is this?
Well, you made the point that the way it's positioned, it will draw people who might have bought the entry level model up, to spend a little bit more. It will
Maybe.
bring some people, I think, from the Air who didn't really
Yeah.
want to spend that much money on it, bring them down. Now, Apple would probably say we were going to get that customer either way at the low
Yeah.
end or the
Sure.
Air, in the Air, and we'll just give them this in the middle. But it just feels again like, and Apple has done this in the past with different lineups, but it's really around the iPad that it seems to be, just unsure of what the iPad is supposed to be, where it fits into the whole Apple ecosystem. So we'll just give them all kinds of
Yeah.
options,
Yeah.
and some of them, overlap, and some of them use old technology, and some of them use USB-C, and some, again, the old pencil, the new pencil.
Yeah. Yeah.
It feels like a mess.
It does. And it's not clear. And I think you're right. It's because Apple doesn't really know what it wants the iPad to be. And this is now, all right, it came out in 2010. It's not a 2-year-old product, it's a 12-year-old product that still feels like it's has no identity. Even with Stage Manager, well, the issues of that aside, but just the concept of it, like it's just like what do you want this thing to be?
I have a question for you that's
Yeah,
related to something that is not out yet, but that has been rumored to come out next year, I believe. There's talk about a 16-inch
yeah,
iPad.
14 and 16. I don't
What,
know.
I mean, that's like having a MacBook Pro 14 or 16 without the
Yeah,
keyboard, right?
yeah. I mean, it would need
That's
it would need some kind of a docking mechanism, and I don't know. I don't have a clue what that is. We've also
I
heard
mean, do they
rumors that
have
they're
like an
working.
excess number of 14 and 16-inch screens and they're just slapping them together as
I mean,
iPads
maybe
now?
like would I assume that would be like a pro? So we're talking about what, $2,000, $1,800? Like that's not going to be a cheap device.
Yeah.
I don't know who wants that. There's also a rumor that they're working on a version of macOS 14 for the iPad, a light stripped down version of macOS 14. So there's that too. Like where it's almost like they have, seven different forks in the fire and they just don't know which one to pull out.
It
So they
feels
keep
like
pulling out numerous ones. And
it feels
so
like
now,
decisions made by committee. No one's
yeah,
really championing the whole lineup overall, and it's just like, well, we can do this. Let's do it.
it doesn't make any sense. So we got the 329 iPad, the 449 iPad. I
10.
just call it the iPad because
Yeah.
but they're both called iPad. The
Yeah.
499 iPad Mini, the 599 iPad Air, the 799 iPad Pro, and the 1099 iPad Pro, and in between that, a million different color and storage options.
Yep.
It's like 50 different iPads to buy.
Again, it's a mess, I think.
Yeah,
Now,
and
now,
you
all
can look
that
at
said,
you
Apple
can
will
look.
sell a ton of these. They
Well,
will.
I was just going to bring that up. I don't know if you look at the trajectory of the iPad, it's going down every quarter. It goes down
Literally less, or is it the rate of
literally.
increase is going down?
No, I think it's literally selling. They don't
Fewer,
break apart units,
right?
but the money that it goes down in billions is
Hmm.
significant enough where it's not just people buying cheaper models.
Hmm.
It's less people buying them, fewer people buying them, and I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter. They made $91 billion last quarter
Well, I mean, don't.
in a recession of sorts. So it
Well,
doesn't really
I would
matter.
argue. I would argue that, yes, okay. So let's say real sales are going down. Part of that could very well be that Apple has sort of developed a device that when you buy one, you really don't need to upgrade for several years.
Sure.
I
But you can
mean,
say that about the Mac too, and that's a clear cut product line.
yeah.
Just because people aren't going to upgrade doesn't mean you have to give them 8 million reasons to consider why they should or shouldn't.
Well, I mean, all right. So take the iPad Pro, which went from the M1 chip to
Yeah.
the M2 chip. And I'm not sure, okay, a little more energy efficient, probably a little faster on some things,
Sure.
you know, but I mean, day-to-day use when you're, reading online or watching a movie on your last year's M1 based iPad Pro compared to this year's M2 based iPad Pro, you're not going to see any difference.
No, I don't know
Right.
why anybody would choose to buy the 12.9-inch iPad Pro for $500 more than the
Yeah.
iPad Air. I don't. I
Bigger
mean, you
screen?
get slightly.
Yeah.
What is it? 10.9 versus so it's 2 inches.
Yeah.
I mean,
12.9.
okay. It's not. I mean, when you buy the 16-inch MacBook Pro versus a 14-inch MacBook Pro,
Hmm.
that's a different thing, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think 2 inches matters as much on a tablet. In fact, I think it's better to get the small one because it's more comfortable to hold. The
Yeah.
12.9-inch Pro is you really need to dock that thing to comfortably use it
Yeah,
for
I have one
30
of
minutes
those,
at a
and I've got
time.
the keyboard for
Yeah,
it, basically for that reason. It just it's so big, and I like it. It's beautiful, but it is cumbersome to just hold on its
yeah,
own.
for sure.
Yeah,
So that's the other thing. So they came out with the keyboard, not a Magic Keyboard. It's a smart keyboard or something. What do they call it? For the
I think it's the
I,
smart keyboard. I think that's what they call it.
it's not we right. It's not the Magic Keyboard.
No, the Magic Keyboard is the one with the cantilever back, right?
The I don't know
The
what
magnet thing.
the magnet thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's called it is called the Magic Keyboard Folio. Sorry,
Okay.
not the
Not the
but
smart.
it's a different attachment. It's not like that hover thing that you get with the Pro. That's really
Once
nice.
again, good luck when you buy one of a billion iPads getting the right
Yeah.
keyboard,
Well,
pencil,
this one is only
connector,
for
dongle.
this one. Even though the iPad Air has the same size screen, they say it's not compatible. And the 11-inch iPad Pro, which is zero point 0.1 inches bigger, is also not compatible. So it's nuts. But anyway, I haven't tried out the Magic Keyboard, but we're working on a review, and I read about it, and people say it's fine. Like
Mhm.
there's good things about it, but it's also pretty shoddily made. It doesn't really attach as nearly as well as the Magic. The Magic Keyboard, even though it's $350, is a fantastic accessory.
It is. I
It's
agree.
excellent. It's
Yeah.
excellent. This one doesn't seem to be quite that, but they did add a function row that the other ones don't have.
Hmm.
Okay, why? has a larger trackpad that the other ones don't have. Why? I don't know. I don't think Apple knows. I would love to sit down with an iPad person and say, can you just explain? Like, I'm going to give you like 10 questions. Just give me answers to 2 of them. Pick 2. I don't think they could.
Yeah.
I don't think they know what the heck they're doing with the iPad.
Okay. All right. On that note, real quick question, because I know we're getting up on our end of time frame here. Let's talk really briefly about what apparently isn't coming this fall, which was
So
the rumored M2 14 and 16 MacBook Pro.
Yeah. Once we got the iPads, which I thought were big enough for an event, like the 10th gen iPad is as much as we're
it's popular,
telling everyone is terrible. It's an interesting, intriguing device, and Apple could have sold it well in an event. We just assumed that a couple of weeks later there would be another press release update on their website for 14 and 16-inch M2 Pro Max MacBook Pros, and maybe the Mac Mini, which I don't know what's going on with that Mac Mini. We can talk about that another show. Yeah. But man, what are they doing with that thing? But now it looks like that's not happening. Mark Gurman of Bloomberg, again, who got this one right.
He's got pretty good sources. Yeah,
he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He says that they're done. And Tim Cook in the fourth quarter earnings report said that their product lineup was set. So you can.
Where's the Mac Pro? The new Mac Pro?
That one isn't coming until next year. We kind of
assume doesn't that get them outside of their 2-year plan to shift everything to Apple?
I mean, this is why you don't put solid schedules on transitions. Like they should have said it's a multi-year transition, and then
2 to 3 years.
Yeah, something. no one's going to hold them to that. So the Mac Pro would have been weird to come out at a consumer event anyway. That's probably going to be WWDC next year, I guess. But they also still sell that Intel Mac Mini, which is like, wow, who would buy that? Is nobody? Like if it was $100, I wouldn't buy it. Like there's just no reason to have it.
No. Yes,
but that's $1,100. They still sell that. Now the only 2 M2 machines are the 13-inch Pro, which is the same as the 13-inch.
The old style, right?
Yeah. And the M2 MacBook Air, that's it. Everything else still has a variation of the M1 processor. The Mac Mini still has the M1 base model processor. So does the iMac.
Yeah.
The MacBook Pros. And listen, they're all good chips, but like, what is the strategy here?
Yeah.
Like you control the chips. You can't blame Intel anymore and say, oh, well, we're waiting for them. No, this is you. Figure out your schedule, because there should, like, the iPhone has been clockwork for 20 years or 16 years, whatever it is. We know it's coming out in September. That's it. Apple Watch, same thing. That's important, I think, for when you're making a buying decision.
Yeah.
Macs are just like, well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe we'll get one this year. Maybe we'll get one in 2026. I don't know. The Mac Mini might not be updated till, I don't know. Who knows? Crazy.
All right. Color us.
But no Macs this fall. Yeah. That's basically set. Like the what you see is what you get situation. And for Black Friday, keep an eye on that 14 and 16-inch Pro, because they've been on sale. They were on sale already for like $300-400. They kind of fluctuate on Amazon. If that goes down to like $500 off, that is a ridiculously good price. $300 off is already great. $400 off is amazing. $500 off is like, whoa, go get it, because it's a very good machine.
Those are phenomenal. Will we get any sense before we chat again in a couple of weeks what the Black Friday deals might be, or do we not find that out until right before?
I mean, we can kind of like get like a pulse of what's being on sale. Like the Apple TV 4K is on sale now. They'll probably be gone by then.
Yeah.
Blowout. Apple Watches are always good fodder. AirPods are always good fodder for Black Friday.
Accessories, things like that.
Yeah, well, those are always, sure.
Yeah.
iPhones are tough because most of the deals, at least in the US, you either had to get a new line or switch carriers or trade something in or something. Yeah. Like it's rare that you just see a straight up $200 off on the iPhone Pro. Like that just doesn't really happen very often. iPads, they'll go on sale.
Mm-hmm.
The 9th gen will probably go down to $269 again, which is ridiculously good if you want one.
Yeah.
Maybe the 10th gen goes, like, if that goes down to $399, maybe
it's a good deal.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you take $50 off, then it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So iPad Air is already $100 off at a lot of places. So is the Mini because those have been out for a while. iPad Pro, maybe you'll see some discounts on that. There's certainly discounts to be had on the old model, which is
On the
basically the
M1s,
same.
yeah.
Yeah, so go buy that if you want one of those. Like those were $200 off leading up
I
to
would
the
argue that that's
release.
probably a better deal than even a slightly discounted M2. The difference isn't
I
that
agree.
dramatic.
Not
Yeah,
at all. No, yeah. If you can save 250, $300 on the M1 and you want
yeah,
one, yeah,
yeah.
that's a good deal.
All right. All right, cool. Well, listen, I really appreciate you explaining this to me, Mike. I guess I better go back and cancel my Apple TV
If you
purchase
don't have a Samsung TV, definitely cancel it.
since I don't need it. All right, I'll go back and cancel that real
You're not
quick.
going to see any difference.
As
Maybe
soon as
your apps will load instead of half a second, they'll
I
load
haven't
in
noticed
point
any,
0.4 of a
yeah,
second.
nope, haven't seen any delays yet. So, all right. Okay, well, listen, thanks. And maybe by the time we roll back around in a couple of weeks, first of all, we may, maybe we'll have a new host. Maybe I'll host, who knows? And maybe we'll get some ideas what the Black Friday deals are. In the meantime, if you like what you see, please like it, like our channel, subscribe so you know we're going to have new episodes coming up. If you're looking at us on the Computer World LinkedIn page, dash over to the YouTube page, and you can get the whole lineup of our past shows. And again, like us, subscribe. In the meantime, thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.